Yeah, we on our superhero shit right here, man. Yeah. Check it. No doubt.
It must have been about 3 or 4 months ago that Justin rang me and said, I want to set up a big discussion event called All Black Everything. I was fortunate enough to be working with Nathaniel Coleman at UCL with the Why Is My Curriculum White campaign, which has really taken off fantastically. We've had Media Diversified kicking down doors all over the press, both in the mainstream and in the independent media. We've seen loads of really interesting stuff happen with migrant solidarity. We've seen Movement for Justice and many other black movements really show strong solidarity with people in Yarlswood and other migrants who are coming here and who have been criminalised and brutalised by the British state. And we're seeing that movement for the first time in a very long time be linked up to the Black Deaths in Custody movements and the anti-police brutality movements, which are organising a great deal as well at the moment. And what we're also doing is bringing in the new forms of thinking, the more modern forms of thinking, which perhaps the previous generation of activists in this country weren't as strong with. Thinking about LGBT rights, thinking about queer rights, thinking about transgender communities, thinking about women, thinking about disabilities, thinking about all of these things that make us who we are today and enable us to strengthen our struggles, make them far broader and make them far more powerful.
Controlling images applied to black women that originated during the slave era attest to the ideological dimension of US black women's oppression. Ideology refers to the body of ideas reflecting the interests of a group of people. Within US culture, racist and sexist ideologies permeate the social structure to such a degree that they become hegemonic, namely, seen as natural, normal, and inevitable. In this context, certain assumed qualities that are attached to black women are used to justify oppression.
So, for instance, earlier we were talking about the angry black woman, and it's something that I've really experienced that in the way people expect me to be in the world, and I have experienced that slightly less when I was in France, or when I am in France. What I experienced in France is a stronger sense of being exoticized. There is a strong attraction of the exotic, but there is also that sense of being the other, of being the woman that one wants to possess, the woman that one has to colonize. There is a strong sexual depiction of womanhood, of black womanhood. Perhaps a lot less in this country. Here, it seems to me that our construction is around anger and being difficult, or being resistant, or defiant, or defensive. So, those are the differences that I've picked up in my experience.
9 times out of 10, when I ask you to describe me, the words loud, sassy, and angry make an appearance.
The impact Media Diversified have. I don't know if many of you know of the platform, the website, or the Twitter at least, let's say, at Writers of Colour, where if you find us on any given day, we're probably calling out somebody in the mainstream media for some reason, because there's always something. And we, what we try to do is not look at it as if there is a left and a right, because to people of colour, it actually doesn't matter in some ways, because we have The Guardian, who will you think with the most diverse outlet out there, still having white writers talking about diversity, or if you do get called in as a black writer, it's talk, you might want to talk about the theatre, but they've got you talking about, something they think is black. And that is how, diversity doesn't mean liberation in my point, when it is these, benevolent gatekeepers sort of giving it down to us. So we have a couple of hashtags, one called Guardian Legacy, which just looks at how white the Guardian is, and then we also have a hashtag called Segregated Spectator. They, of course, are at the other end of the spectrum of right-wing media, but they're very much all white. But
it's all well and good when black excellence succeeds, and when black people succeed because we're excellent. But what about those of us who aren't excellent? What if we're mediocre? And whites are allowed to be mediocre and make their money. If I was a black white, I would be this is actually about black mediocrity. What if I'm not excellent? What if I don't want to make a platform? What if I'm mediocre? What would you say then? Because that feeling does exist.
You're absolutely right. I think I saw something that actually honed that into me on Twitter the other day. Somebody says the only time we'll know that we're liberated when there's the equivalent of there's a black Katie Hopkins who can write about, white people and cockroaches, and that's it. That's the only time we'll know we're there.
I think you mentioned something quite earlier on in the discussion about black faces and white spaces. That's always a difficult one for me because I think I used to be like, yeah, as long as they're there, that's the main thing. And I think there's still an argument to say it's important to have a black face and a white space to see black people in the media, in these places of power. But I think in the last kind of year or two, I've started to get a bit, it's kind of bothered me because a lot of these people who are in the white space are doing jack shit for black people, right? And so it almost makes me even more upset thinking that maybe I'd rather they weren't there in the first place because you're actually offending me, like being in that spot, and you're offending me, you're being in that spot, you're doing jack shit for black people, but you're still getting the kudos, kind of.
The trouble, I think it seems to me, is that those people can be puppets, and they are tokens, and they are used to make the point that, exactly, we are not racist because, look, we have Kunta Kinte here. So, this is what's real, this is what's going on. And essentially, they are here for show. They're not here for the cause, they're not here to make change, they're not here for the difference.
Because when the fight kind of happened, I hated myself for defending Nicki Minaj. Because out of all the black MCs that would like to defend, Nicki Minaj is not one of them. She doesn't put black women on top unless it's convenient for her. So how do you feel towards that? Because obviously, when you've got white feminism attacking her, you don't have any other choice than stand for your own. But she's not bringing us up, not at all.
Right now, but I just want to relay back to Miss over here. I just find it funny that you feel like Nicki Minaj is putting black women on top because she's a black woman on top. So she's a black woman, like who's in the charts. I'm sorry, how?
We used to have the police used to have the power to strip people in the streets, and they would predominantly strip black men in the street for drugs. So you would have to remove your underwear on the street because the police officer was telling you to. And if you refused to do that, you should bundle into the van, and you wouldn't know if you came out of that van alive. This used to happen on a regular basis. What happens now? Strip searches happen in detention centres. They happen in youth juvenile centres, and statistics show time and time again, if you are black or mixed race, you are like 6, 7, 8 times more likely to be strip searched than if you were a white teenager in a detention centre, in a juvenile detention centre, or if you were a European or sorry, I should say white illegal, undocumented migrant, or what people like to use the term illegal immigrant. No one is illegal.
The government, in theory, has kind of screening processes for vulnerable people like pregnant women, survivors of torture, survivors of trafficking, survivors of sexual violence. It's called Rule 35, and it doesn't work. And essentially, I think the NGO sector in relation to immigration detention, for all its kind of flaws, it's comparatively radical, and they are kind of consistently suing the government, and Helen Bamber Foundation in particular has been amazing with regard to actually suing the Home Office and getting them to acknowledge that they are detaining survivors of torture, because they won't even acknowledge that, let alone acknowledge that somebody has a mental health problem.
Okay, yeah, the detention centres are run mostly by private companies. That's Mighty, used to be a car park company. The Serco, they run some trains and probably, I think, some canteens and cleaning services, but they run Yarlswood Detention Centre. There are some run by Her Majesty's Prison, but that's the only public ones. Yeah, G4S, Tasco do a lot of the transportation. They're all private companies. They're all companies making a profit out of all of this. So when I said, the PR, like the concerns like how is this going to be viewed by the outside world. Well, all their job is to make sure that it keeps staying secret. So all the things, all the bullying of detainees, all of that has to do with, with keeping people quiet. And so the speaking out, like the things like detained voices and stuff, being able to, for people inside, there are so many people, they want to speak, they want to tell what's going on, they want to talk about it, they want the world to know, and it's so difficult to get that out. The attacks on immigrants is a divide and rule tool. It's not just a divide and rule between white people and black people. It is a divide and rule between black people, between black and Asian, Latino people, between people who got their status and have their red passport, and other people in the community who don't.
It seems to me that when there are deaths of our African American counterparts, we mobilise very effectively here. I went to countless marches and things, after the death of Mike Brown and Eric Garner and things like that, it's really effective. But I have yet to go to anything for Sheku Bayo or any other person. And I think it's just this big question of, we're obviously doing work, you're all three from organisations that are doing work, but I imagine there are lots of people who don't know about your organisations, who don't know what you do, who are like, oh, what's happening, they don't think there's a network. And I guess it's just a case of, how are we, on the one hand, how do we make people more aware that we've got these kind of things that are going on in your organisations, but also, in the bigger picture, how do we get people to understand that police brutality isn't something that just appeared out of nowhere? It's systematic, and it has a long pattern.